Welcome to the new IT. Here we are, once again, the new IT. What are we talking about today, Brad?
Same thing as always, but we actually have a guest in studio.
Same thing as always. We're talking about the new IT. What do you just said it? That's what we're talking about.
Right.
What's going on in the new world? We're going to find out. We're going to listen to a disruptor. We're going to talk about some crazy disruption. Right, Rick?
Yes,
Absolutely.
we are. So, as you said, we brought Rick in studio. He's
Hernandez, Rick Hernandez in studio today.
And he's with Social Good Software. That's his company. He's doing some really amazing things. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick and let him kind of talk about what they're doing and give a brief intro.
Yeah, let's just find out what's going on with Social Good. I love the name.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby, and thanks so much for having me on the show. Really excited to be here with all of you today, just share a little bit more about what we're up to. So at Social Good Software, we work with nonprofits. Mostly we focus in the arts and culture space. So a lot of our customers are places like museums, aquariums, zoos, gardens, historic houses, those types of places. So maybe like a place you take your family over the weekend, have some fun, relax, and get to learn a little bit about the culture. So in every city, there's also a little bit of culture in that city. So that's typically where the arts and culture really fits in.
Okay.
And what does Social Good do with those things? This is interesting. What is your piece of that puzzle? I'm curious.
Yeah, so we have a small little piece. We are a software as a service platform that helps a lot of these organizations just operate a little bit more efficiently. So this is a vertical in the marketplace that has been ignored by a lot of software vendors. More typically, you can think about like back in the day with learning management systems, where it's just because it was higher education, no one's really paying attention to them, not that many resources go into helping them out. And that's kind of the same situation the arts and
now
culture.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
Learning
yeah.
management is everybody's got their piece of the let's teach people something.
Yep.
So you think you're in that space early days?
Really early days. Right now, there isn't that many resources going into this just because it's nonprofit. Usually when people think nonprofit, they don't really think of an opportunity. They're like, nonprofit, I'm not even gonna go in
bother.
there.
Not even gonna go.
There's no money in it, right?
Exactly.
Is what their thought process is.
Yeah.
But that's not the case, correct?
Oh, no. The arts and culture market, it's a $980 billion market.
$980 billion.
Huge market.
I had no idea.
This includes private sales of art pieces, though. So this includes all arts and culture, not just attractions and places like that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Since one painting can be worth $15 million
Exactly.
or some craziness, or a dude can get $100,000 for some duct tape and a banana.
There you go.
What about some paintings?
Yeah, right. That's crazy. Well, so how did you get into that space? What did you say? Oh, something is missing, and I'm gonna fill that missing piece, or what?
No, so I've been in this space for a really long time. So I actually started my career in distance learning. So I was in a different software company around 2011, 2012 with distance learning. So this is pre-Google Hangouts. So we essentially had
anything, Zoom too, right?
Exactly.
Pre-Zoom, way pre-Zoom.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah, so I was working for a software company doing distance learning. So this includes bringing students with resources available on campus, talking to counselors, talking to TAs, talking to those types of folks over distance. So
wow,
a lot of our customers, when I was working in that company, were higher education institutions to be able to provide resources for students that were not on site. Again, this is a long time ago, 2011, 2012, 2013.
You were in the beginning of the industry at that point.
Back then, remote distance learning wasn't a thing. People weren't really into it back in the day.
I remember a corporate client, like in 2007, we installed some corporate software for connecting and teaching people in other areas of our company, and it was like a $250,000. It just was a camera and some software that we do on Zoom and stuff for free now, but it was $250,000 just to place it in our boardroom and have all that stuff. I mean, that's the way it was back then.
Yeah. Well, that was state of the art at the time.
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of real-time communication back in the day. So that's kind of how I got started my career there. just because of the organization I was meeting with. It was just a lot of higher ed. And usually some type of museum or research institute is tied to a university. So they're doing some sort of research there, whether it be archaeology, any type of research that's usually happening outside of the university itself. It usually goes off to either a natural history museum, a museum of fine arts. They're typically attached to a university. So that's how I got my into the industry. I was already working there. They just happened to be there already.
But what did you see that was lacking that you said, I can fill this hole?
Yeah, so before I started this software company, I was doing something different. I was doing more interactives. So a lot of our customers were digital interactives, digital gallery pieces, waypoint finding machines, audio tours, just the things you interact with when you go to a museum, for example.
Oh, like the little tour thing and the little thing you hold and you can listen and
Little
that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So a lot of our stuff was like gallery pieces. So when you would go to a museum and you tap on a screen and you learn something new, or you go through a game and kids play on the game, those types of things.
You were doing that stuff?
Yeah, we were building that software.
That's
cool.
Oh.
Yeah, so we did that since 14, 15, all the way up till like 2018. So those were just the gallery pieces there. So we got to build some really cool stuff. Some of our stuff got to go in around the country. So we've gone to the Mayo Clinic.
Wow.
We've gone to a couple of science centers throughout the U.S. And then obviously our connection here to Utah. A lot of our stuff got hosted at the Natural History Museum of Utah. A lot of our stuff got to the University of Utah, like the Nursing College, the Orthopedic Center. So just a bunch of different interactives that were part of those organizations.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of how I was working that space already. So I already had a lot of colleagues that I was working with already. They trusted me. They know, like, hey, Rick does really good, high quality work, and we can trust him to see something from. I have an idea that I think this will be an amazing interactive for kids to play on. To actually, let's go ahead and make it happen. So I was really involved from ideation, creation, production, testing, and then finally releasing it to public, where hundreds of thousands of visitors get to interact with this one piece. So.
And is that what you're currently doing today?
No. So
I knew. I was leading it up. Leading it up. I knew exactly what I was doing.
Right?
yeah, so that's kind of what I was doing. Now we just have a strictly a software for back of office for a lot of our customers. So
What does that mean?
So a lot of back of office stuff is things that we essentially bucket into three things. We help our customers automate, delegate, and streamline. So that's essentially what our software does. So on the automation side is things that are being done manually right now by staff members. We help them kind of get those things out of their plate and let an automation system to do it for them.
Wow.
On the delegation side is more specifically on things they just can't handle internally. A lot of these organizations can't really afford a software developer. They can't afford a designer. They can't afford these six-figure plus jobs for them to be able to have them on staff. So they can just delegate it to my company where we have those people on staff to be able to, take on these specific initiatives that they have in mind. And then finally, the last part is streamlining. And this is really understanding their organization and how they do things and really just getting rid of steps from their processes. So sometimes we take a process that take 50 steps, we trim it down to 14.
So that's only because you understand the industry, been around it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so that's how you kind of sell it, I guess. You go, hey, we know that you do this, and this. How about if we got rid of half of that stuff for you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That all
awesome.
of those spaces, nonprofits are always looking for a way to cut a good corner because they unfortunately they really have to run like any other business.
Yeah, they do.
People think that a nonprofit means something magical, but they still have to run it, and if they don't run it right, they can fail just like any other business. There's not some magical thing with a nonprofit. It's just the way it's structured. But for the most part, it's a business, right?
Yeah, and there's also like one of the things that I've heard is specifically where the person's working on the nonprofit. Sometimes they don't want to make a profit. Like they have a little bit of shame around money. I'm like, hey, no. Like it's perfectly okay because you're using that money for your mission.
Or the profit
you're using it to grow your message.
That's the misnomer too,
that
a nonprofit doesn't actually make money, because a lot of nonprofits can make lots of money. It's again the way it's structured, not that you're not supposed to have money. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. So
I mean, I guess my first question is, how would you feel your software is being a disruptor in the industry? I mean, I know you kind of talked about it, but how specifically are you making that disruption?
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts that go to it, but mostly on the hours saved. So a lot of our stuff from our customers is spreadsheets. It's taped together automation scripts from maybe their internal IT department. Just a lot of duct tape all around. So what we do is we kind of take these really large initiatives that they want to do, and we put automation in place. So instead of hiring an employee, or instead of you trying to do it, we go ahead and put in an automation system to be able to do it for you. So I'll give you some examples around this. Most of these organizations we work with have some sort of membership component to it. So I'm going to take my kids to the aquarium. We have a membership to take them as much as we want, etc. So one of the automations we do is we just simply remind folks to remind them to renew their membership automatically. So there's no staff time required in order for them to be able to get reminded to go and renew their membership.
Awesome. I like that.
And is there anybody else doing this stuff? You have competition?
Yeah, so on the competition side, I believe we don't have any competition with what we do.
Really?
And the reason for that is because we're so niche down into the particular people we help. So there's not a single vendor that can help our customers the way we can.
You have really focused
Yeah.
on those nonprofits, specifically art and
Culture.
When you say culture, that's like like an aquarium or
The
something
zoo
like that.
or-
The
Like
zoo.
a historic house, zoo.
Okay.
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
Interesting. I talk about business. We talk about business all the time, and I always find it interesting. To be successful, you find a real niche that you can actually support. So many people don't realize that's how a company becomes something great, by finding the right niche. Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to get your messaging down. For us, we know exactly who we talk to. So that specific person for us is either director of philanthropy or director of membership or fundraising director. Somewhere around there is usually a person is making it rain for the organization, quote unquote, right? So they're actually going out there and talking to larger donors. They're going out there and fundraising money. They're going out there and growing the membership base. That's typically the person we talk to is usually the rainmaker for the organization.
Interesting. So how would you say you're innovative? I know we kind of talked about what makes you disruptive, but how is it? Is it innovative, or it's just like, hey, we just took stuff that everybody else is doing and we put it in a certain market?
Yeah, so I think on the innovation side, there is a couple parts that go to it. It's not just the one thing, but I think when you mix these things together. So for us, we have essentially kind of 8 little apps that we sell that help with the automation piece. But the real magic where it's really innovative is when you combine them.
Okay.
So now, I'll give you an example. So a combination might be we're gonna send this renewal, so you can remind your folks to, get their membership again, to renew their membership, and we're also gonna send up another end of year appeal that says hey, thank you so much for being a donor. Here's your tax form that explains your donation throughout the year and how much of it is deductible. So now you're combining two things. You're reminding folks here. You're reminding folks here for an end of year deduction. So it's it kind of comes together and putting these pieces together, and then that's what really makes it innovative in a way that's really meaningful for the organizations.
So having said that, have you seen an increase in donations or the amount of donations that you're getting because of it?
Oh, definitely.
I can think of. I know we had a membership at Thanksgiving Point for a while, and then never thought more about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it ran out, for years, and I remember, I wonder why we don't have a membership there anymore, or why we didn't. And I think if somebody would have just said, "Hey, your membership's out. Why don't you come back?" we probably would have.
Right.
Yep.
But nobody did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Just because typically that's usually a staff person's time.
It's got to reach out
to go and
or
do
they
that.
put you in a CRM or something. But most of those companies, they don't even think about that.
Yeah. Then it's usually a manual process. You got to source a list.
Right.
You got to come up with the messaging, and it's
Somebody's job.
Yeah, it's usually
Exactly.
somebody, like in these arts and culture organizations. People are usually wearing a lot of hats.
Oh yeah.
So they have the hat of fundraiser, they have a hat of membership, they have the hat of email marketing. It's very similar to a small business where they're just wearing a lot of different hats, and sometimes things slip. Like you don't have the
it's gonna
time to go do
happen.
this. I don't have the time to go do that. Then that's kind of where we step in and just set it in the automation system, let it take care of it for you, and forget about it.
You said something interesting, and I think it's funny because it does. A lot of them run like a small business, but sometimes they have thousands of people coming through their stuff. I mean, they have need way bigger than the scale that they usually treat. Would you say that that's a true statement? That their business need is usually bigger than what they do? Am I getting at something here?
I mean, I would think so. I mean, I think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, so a lot of these organizations have really ambitious mission. And this is the difference between just giving out a donation and feeding somebody's belly versus philanthropy, which is more planting an idea in a kid's mind that's paid 50 years later or 20 years later, when they go and actually go and do some research, or they decide to major in college, or
teach them to fish.
Exactly. So this is this is more on the donation side, where I'm going to go ahead and give this $10 donation so somebody gets some food in their belly today, versus I'm going to make this donation into this institution that's going to incite an idea on a kid for them to be able to preserve our wildlife, to preserve our our pretty much our way of living, right, in this planet, right? So there's two differences there between donations and philanthropy, and I'm more on the camp of philanthropy and kind of planning for the long haul. And that's what these organizations do all across this country. They are planning for the long haul. It's not it's not an overnight solution. It's they're planting seeds that are going to be harvested many years into the future.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
So let me ask you this: who takes care of your technology? I mean, is it you? Is it a team? Let's unpack that a little bit.
And how does that look?
Yeah,
How does
exactly.
your back end? Yeah, let's just open up the hood and just tell everything.
So we're a really small team. We're a team of 9, but we are really high skilled at this one thing, and we only do this one thing. I would say we're world class at this one thing and nothing else. So we understand this problem very well. We kind of know all of its little tentacles and everything that comes along with it. So that's when people ask me, like, who's your competitor or who's your competition? And I say nobody, because no one's willing to obsess so much about the problem like we do. So
I love it.
So most companies are trying to do 1,000 things. We'll work with nonprofits. We'll work work with universities. We'll work with colleges. We'll work with this. We'll work with that. Just because they're trying to capture as much of that market. For us, it's like we're just so narrow in what we do and who we help and how we can help them. Like today, I turned away business, not necessarily because we didn't have the capability of serving them, but because we choose not to serve them because they don't fit in the market that we serve. So we just pass them along. We pass along business all the time.
This is such great business advice.
Absolutely.
Just people in business so many times think, I have to grab at anything I can possibly get, and then they don't niche. And then if you try and tell them to niche, they're like, but what about these people and these people? You know what? If you niche to these people, those people will come to you too if you really want to work with them.
Exactly.
You've really honed it and listened to this man about this is business process 101. And you're using technology to do it. So with that said, what do you think of the future of your technology? What do you see in the future now with your system, with your business? What do you see going forward?
Yeah, so definitely a lot more automation. So there's a big there's a really blurry line when people say AI and machine learning, and people say a lot of these like fluff words, and like we're doing AI, we're doing ML, we're doing this, we're doing that, and I think it's really hard for people to kind of understand how that relates specifically to their lives or to their business or to their organizations. So if I was to come in here and say like, oh, we're doing AI and we're doing ML and we're doing all this fancy stuff, most people are like, that goes over my head. It doesn't really mean anything for me, right? So that's why I like to bucket it under automation. So I see us moving into the future, more and more automation. So more and more things that are just done for you automatically.
The word automation, too, is probably more true to what it is, because AI, I mean, if I've got a system that says if I do this, then it does this. If it does this, then it does this. People call that AI, but that's not AI.
No.
That's just machine. That's just programming. Yeah, that's just programming. Yeah,
It's just a
that's
process
automation.
defined and
It's that's what you're really usually talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the fun words, but you're nitty gritty. You're gonna say we're gonna have more and more automated things.
Yep. So, I've been doing IoT projects and things that talk to each other all like since 2015, 2016. So I think into the future is going to be more and more of that, more automation, more things talking to each other, more of this, more of that. That's just simply happening on your behalf without you necessarily being involved in it. Yes, you'll be involved in like the key decisions of it, but not necessarily in the monitoring and kind of keeping up to date with things and things like that. It's more like I want to grow my membership base. I want to go from 10,000 members to 25,000 members. I don't necessarily need to bother with the technique or the technology. I just want to make this happen. So that's kind of where automation happens. It's like, this is the wording. This is what you do. These are the messages. This is how you put a system into place. This is how you scale from 10 to 20 to 25 to 50 to 100,000 members, right? So really just understanding the processes there. I think that's going to be huge for specifically the people we serve, just because they're not, Fortune 5,000 companies where there's usually a person that's diagramming and putting all those pieces together. So I think that's kind of where the future is going to go. It's more process driven, more automations, more kind of jumping you into the future essentially, because a lot of these folks they're behind, Bobby. They're behind.
Oh yeah. So there's like more opportunity for the little folks.
Yeah, definitely.
Like everything happening now and moving on in the future. I mean, now a kid on YouTube could be a superstar when 20 years ago that you had to have an agent. You had to be in every show on the planet before you became famous. Now the playing field, you're saying in technology and business, that playing field's going to get leveled there too. I mean, we're already seeing that for sure.
Yeah, we are.
So with that said, then what do you think about the future of technology in general?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Where are we going? Is it the same answer?
So we're definitely heading down more the no-code, low-code solutions. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but
he's heard of it.
But things like Bubble, like those are
Airtable.
Yeah,
Bubble. Yeah, I'd make those with my kids.
Those are definitely like going to be like, I think it's going to be more and more relevant in the future. And I think I taught people how to code. I've been an instructor. I've teach people a lot of these skills. I teach it to my team all the time. So I think into the future is going to be more and more of kind of these big tools you can push, and then they're going to go and do a lot of these things for you.
They're going to do all the minute, small, little stuff.
Yep. So a lot more code generating things, a lot more things that just build on their own. A lot of like things that are already kind of put into place for you. You just click one button and it just spins out the whole thing. So it's similar.
We're going to see more of that.
Yeah. So like AWS is already doing this. AWS, you can go and say, "Give me a compliant environment," boop, and it gives it to you. So there's a lot of tools already out there. They're already doing it, but we're definitely going to see it more in just other vendors and in more software products. Since we are a software company, like on our end, we're already doing that in a micro level. But in the future, it's going to be definitely kind of you push one button and thousands of things get spit out, and you're able to kind of move your business forward.
I think he's right. I think
I agree.
You're totally
I really do.
On point. And
as a
that
culture,
is the future.
Yeah, I mean, as a culture, I think we're all about simplicity. So I agree. I think it's just going in that realm.
That just hit me. What does that mean for the future jobs? What about that programmer guy in the corner? Is he screwed?
I don't think the programmers are screwed. So I think what's going to happen. So
Are they going to be project managers, not just developers?
So software and versus hardware. So I'll give you kind of the explanation here. Software, there's the really important reason why it's soft in front. Soft is the people person, like the people behind it. Mm-hmm. So software is never going away. Developers are never going away. They've been around as long as we've had the hardware. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because people are hard to understand. People are hard to please. People always want to grow. They always want to go ahead and do new things. They want to explore. They want to try this. They want to try that. And that's why software is never really going to leave. I think coding is going to change. There's going to be more and more abstractions and less of learning how AI works, like actually the algorithms and putting the AI components together, but more picking up an AI component and plugging it into another thing that you want to go ahead and learn more about. So I think it's going to be more and more of less and less code, but more and more about the people and less about how to do the thing. So it's definitely going to be a lot more focused on the people and the problems that you're trying to solve, and less on the code or the line or the language or the particular technology or anything like that. It's going to be more and more about the people, I think.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I mean, this is, wow. I usually I don't get a little anxious when we talk about the future with people, but you're right. I'm a little anxious about it, because it just sounds like the singularity, and we're going to not need folks anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't, the machine does it all now. Who cares?
I see what you mean, but I think Rick hit it right on the head. I mean, you can't, in software, you can't take that out. You can't take the people out of software.
Can't take the people out.
So, in my opinion,
no matter how good
so
the
complex,
AI gets,
it doesn't matter.
It's still not.
You're still going to need that human element. They're still going to. You're going to have that human factor.
Yeah, but always. Will it need the human element, whatever is in control?
Yeah,
I know. So. I'm going all sci-fi. Sorry, man. I had to go there.
So I think like AI really like getting to a place of like scary good. You look at it like, whoa, that's scary good. I say we're about 10, 15 years out.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah. Like right now, AI is like really applicable to certain problems.
It's literally a baby.
So it's mostly like analyzing, like I've seen 10,000s of these patterns. I'm more likely to see another pattern here. So I'm going to give you this recommendation.
Exactly.
So AI is really used as a huge recommendation engine. I realized that you watched Squid Game, so more than likely you're going to like this other thing, right? So it can go in and look at like your historic usage of things and then give you recommendations. But as far as like self-driving cars, all it is looking at hundreds, if not millions, of scenarios of the car driving and what it did 10,000 times before and what's the probability of it doing it now. So it's just very heavy statistics and looking at historic things and then being able to decide. Obviously, there's things
you think
like
15 years out, it's going to be different than that.
No, I think 15, depending
10,
on how things
15.
go, 15, 20 years, something like that. We're gonna see the next step. So we're gonna get past this analyzing pattern, predicting, doing. We're gonna see something get unlocked, and
what do you think
we had an AI kind of winter, because AI was huge in the 80s and 90s. People were really excited about it.
Yeah.
But then we kind of had this winter and nothing really happened. And around 2010, 2011, 2012, machine learning kind of started coming up, and people were like, oh, this is exciting.
They made a few robots that could have a conversation with you. Now Alexa has a conversation with you. It's still lame, but it's this. We're thinking about something gonna be cool in the future.
Yeah. But I think there's still a big piece that needs to be unlocked, and the unlocked piece is creativity. So there is no algorithm right now that unlocks creativity for the machines themselves. Like, yes, there is like some self-generating algorithms out there that will do like artwork. Like there is machines out there,
but it's only what it's been given and what it can see
and what it has
that it will
before,
spit out.
Exactly.
It can't go, oh, I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
It's still, and you think that
Yeah. So
is the next step.
Yeah, once
but
we
that's a
unlock
ways
creativity-
out.
Yeah, I think once we unlock creativity, in an algorithmic way, that's what's going to really unlock this Pandora box of like what the heck are we going to do, right? Like that's when everybody should start getting scared.
Wow, I think you're right on the money.
I
This
agree.
is so cool, so awesome. Next step for your company. What do you think? I know we talked about next step. You think technology, but what do you think next step? And how do people get a hold of you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so next steps for us is we're going to continue to serve the arts and culture market. Right now
It's your niche.
We're very niche down into the people we can serve. So we're looking to expand that. Right now in the U.S. there's around 110,000 arts and culture organizations. Right now we can only serve around 5% of the market. So really small
with what your technology is.
With what we do right now. So we're looking to open that
there's
up.
plenty of space
Yeah, we're
there for your growth.
we're looking to open that up to maybe 25% or 30% of the market. So definitely bringing it to other organizations. So a lot of culture centers, a lot of just institutions that have been neglected, mostly run by volunteers. So really making something a little bit of a smaller tier price item that they can then grow with. So, we have 2 staff members and went from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, and so on. Because a lot of people don't know, like the larger organizations, you look like, you go to any random city in the U.S., you see these huge, fine arts museums, and they all started in the 60s or in the 70s or in the 80s, but they were like a couple people, like 2 or 3 people.
Somebody had a good idea to say, hey, I think this.
Some wealthy family handed down some art pieces. They had like some private showings at their house, and then, they started growing it. Or, some person donated a building, or the city wanted to have some sort of, institutional place for people to be able to, congregate and get together. So it varies from places to places of how these things get started. But it's usually 2 or 3 people that are really passionate about the problem. And right now, if somebody wants to start, the next institution of the future, right? It's going to be 2 or 3 people talking about it and saying like, hey, like we have a problem with education. Here's the reasons why. And I think it should be really important for people to understand more about learning and how learning actually is comprehended. And this is how exhibitions happen. Where people have this idea of like, hey, I want to know more about the autonomy of my body. Like, how does my heart work? And you know what I mean? And they start just talking.
Body, the exhibition body.
Yeah, exactly. So
which is very cool, by the way, if you've ever been to that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that's kind of how it starts, right? So there's also a lot of institutions that do a little like pop-up locations where they kind of show up for a month or 2 and they have an exhibition. Like we had the Van Gogh here in Salt Lake City, which was literally just a pop-up. They're not permanently placed.
I went to Pompeii as a kid, came to Dallas.
My
mom took me to Pompeii. I remember it was traveling all over the country.
Yeah, cool.
Some interesting sculptures.
Yeah.
So folks can reach us at socialgoodsoftware.com. Mostly just on the website. Go there.
Socialgoodsoftware.com.
Yep.
That's easy. Socialgoodsoftware.com.
Right.
Super easy.
Yeah,
well, cool. Awesome. Thanks, man, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Hopefully you guys learned something new.
I did. This is good. And I'm already freaked out. And I think the future's coming, and it's good. All right, folks. We will see you next time for the new IT.